F1 and ITV, sponsored by LG.
Friday practice, Ralf Schumacher revisits the scene of his 2004 accident, prompting a tyre safety fracas. The German misses the race. In qualifying, Toyota and Jarno Trulli respond.
Toyota have pole. They've gone out for glory here with Jarno Trulli.
Since that action on the track, meetings have dominated the speedway. The worry, tyres, Bernie Ecclestone in an animated conversation with Flavio Briatore, the Renault boss. Michelin supplying 7 of the teams, saying they're worried about their tyres on this super high-speed circuit. They're worried the tyres are not strong enough to last the full distance. Safety a paramount concern to Ron Dennis at McLaren and everyone else about their drivers. Consternation for Bernie Ecclestone, so important for him that F1 maintains its foothold here in the United States. A smile against the odds from Bernie. Welcome to Indy. Confusion reigns here at the moment. This is definitely not Formula One's finest hour. As things stand, I can't tell you whether there's going to be a Grand Prix or not. 7 of those teams, that's 14 cars, use those Michelin runners. The company, after that Ralf Schumacher accident, asked for a special chicane to be installed to slow the cars down. The governing body refused. Just now, 9 of the 10 teams agreed they would race, that is everybody except Ferrari, if the chicane was installed. The chicane has not been built yet, and there are no signs of it being built. Those are the bullet points. Let's join Ted Kravitz.
Well, their tyres. They were the first to discover on Friday that there was a manufacturing fault with the tyre. In the tyre, there is a sidewall, that's the side of the tyre, and where it meets the top of the tyre, the tread, there is a weakness, there's a manufacturing fault. So, Toyota had 2 tyre failures. It later emerged on Friday that every other one of the Michelin teams had also had tyres that were near failing. So clearly it's a dangerous situation. These guys are going round the last corner and it's incredibly fast, and the loadings, Jim, are such that it would just be unsafe for the drivers. The tyre would overheat and collapse, and it might mean that the drivers could lose their legs if they crash into the wall. We saw what happened with Ralf Schumacher. So the tyres simply are not safe. Michelin did tests on it overnight. The tests showed that the tyres will only do 10 or 15 laps before they collapse. It's an incredible situation. So the options were to either slow down that very quick banked corner that's giving the tyres such trouble by using a chicane, or change tyres. The FIA, the sports governing body, said absolutely not. You can't change tyres. After all, this formula is a one-tyre formula for the whole of the race. So the changing tyres was out of the question. In any case, Michelin weren't sure if the new tyres they brought along would have done the job. So it's all come down to this, Jim. Do they build a chicane in the fastest corner on this track to slow the cars down or not? And believe it or not, we are 55 minutes before the start of the race, and still we don't know what's going to happen.
Thank you very much indeed, Ted, and it takes them round about 40 minutes to build a chicane. The bosses emerged from that team meeting a few moments ago. Let's have a word with Paul Stoddard of Minardi.
Ted.
Basically, the situation is that the teams will only go out of the pit lane, or 9 of the 10 teams will only go out of the pit lane if there's a chicane put in before the start of the race, and we're obviously very short on time now. Let's hope that it prevails, because what's more important, if ever there was a time for Formula One to come together as a sport and leave its bloody politics behind, this is the time. So let's hope we have a race here this afternoon.
But at the moment, the FIA have said that they won't install a chicane.
Well, the FIA are not installing the chicane. The circuit, I believe, with a bit of help from the GPDA and certain teams are preparing a chicane now. It's up to the FIA what they do. As I said before, if ever there's a time for sport to prevail over politics, it's right now. The whole world's eyes are upon us. We want to see a race here this afternoon, not a political disaster.
So 9 teams have said that's the solution they want. Can you tell us?
The group of 9, as it has been throughout the year, have agreed to race this afternoon. For the sake, whether it's championship counting or not is another issue, whether there's protests, whether there's penalties is another issue. But the group of 9 have said that for the sake of the American people and Formula 1 as a sport at large, that we will put on a show this afternoon. To be able to do that, there needs to be, in the case of the Michelin runners, a chicane installed before the banking. That is happening now as we speak, and provided that is in place when the pit lane opens, then we will be having a race this afternoon.
So Ferrari said no?
At the moment, we'll have to wait and see what Ferrari does.
But at the moment, they're not.
At the moment, 9 teams' principals were in there, and 9 teams have agreed to have a race this afternoon. You'll have to ask Ferrari yourselves on their position.
Were Bridgestone people cooperative in that as well?
Bridgestone weren't in the meeting, so we've still got to deal with that as well. But since Bridgestone don't have a problem, whether there's a chicane or not a chicane should have no effect on the Bridgestone position.
Tyres are you using?
We're using our normal tyres that are on our car fitted now.
And the Michelin ones?
The Michelin runners, I believe, will be using their tyres, but that really is a question for Michelin. I think the issue has been over the speeds with which you arrive into the last corner and what you carry forward onto the straight. And clearly, if there's a chicane to slow that down, then the problem should go away.
There is still no work being done on that chicane. Mark, you've raced over here. You know the American public well. How will they respond to this fiasco?
Well, they're all here looking for entertainment, and the US sports market really is about entertainment. At this moment in time, there's nothing certainly going to be going on entertainment-wise on the circuit. We've got to get something put in place for most of the teams to agree, and that's a chicane, and at this moment, there's not being done.
It's always a struggle for Formula 1 to get a foothold in the United States. They've moved to all sorts of different venues. How big a blow is this for F1 over here?
It's a massive blow, and also you've got to consider most of the sponsors what are down this pit lane are US parent companies. You know, they're going to be looking at us now and saying, what is really going on?
Well, we're all saying that as well. And what about the drivers? And I mean, there's a great reputation. The drivers, they get on with the job come what may. But surely this has to affect all those fellas there.
All of these guys here now, it's all about, look, we want to go out there and race. That's what we're here for. That's what we've been brought up for. And that's what we've always wanted to do as our career. But they want to do it in an environment where it's going to be safe. And nobody at this point, from the Michelin point of view, can guarantee their safety.
And you know a little bit, just finally from you for the moment, Mark, about building chicanes. How tricky is that? You can't just pop one down and go on you go, fellas. The drivers don't know anything about it, where it is, where the brake points are, all that.
Exactly that. It has to be minimum width requirements. There's got to be good line of sight. There's so much that can be done, and it's all to be done in the right way. And, you know, the cars have not got gearing for this. They haven't got the data mapping for this. Everything goes out the window.
Yeah, OK. Well, the story developing all the time. As soon as we know anything, you will as well. The group of 9 then, 9 teams, everybody that is, except Ferrari. Let's get their view.
Luca, can you tell us what Ferrari's position is on the situation?
Ferrari is just preparing for the race. We just need for less than 45 minutes to go to the grid. And that's it. We are working on this. We are focused on this 100%. Nothing more. And then I've heard a lot of things. I've heard a lot of rumors. But it's up to FIA to answer to those rumors. That's it.
Would you be happy with racing around a modified circuit with the chicane put in?
I don't think that it's not a matter to be happy or not happy. We've seen a letter from FIA this morning, and then now, if the other teams are asking again, it's up to FIA to decide.
Ferrari on Bridgestone tyres. Of course, they're quite relaxed about the whole situation. More meetings going on as we speak to you. I believe Ted Kravitz might be around there.
Yes, indeed, Jim. And these are live pictures. This is the room where it's all been happening. This is Bernie Ecclestone's office and the office of Tony George, who is the promoter of the US Grand Prix. So as you can see in here, the back of this gentleman in the blue shirt, that's Gunther Steiner, the technical director of Red Bull. And you can see Frank Williams is in there, and Flavio Briatore and Bernie Ecclestone. Ron Dennis also in there, really bossing the meeting. Ron has been extremely keen that Formula One comes out of this in the best way it possibly can, although that seems unlikely at the moment. But still, last-minute live pictures of last-minute negotiations going on down here.
It's going to be very hard for Formula One to recover from this, because without wishing to put anybody off out there, even if we do get a race, it's going to be a tainted United States Grand Prix.
Well, it's definitely going to leave a bad taste in our mouths. But, at the end of the day, if we can get the race underway and we can get some great racing, I think by the end of all of this, they will still come back and sit their backsides in seats and watch this sport, because it is the pinnacle of motorsport.
But it's a very hard sell this weekend here in Indianapolis, that the people, and particularly it's Father's Day here today, and they've not exactly been flocking to the circuit. They're not exactly rushing to get to see Formula One.
No, they don't understand it, and that is an issue, because now we've confused them even more, and we've got to do something about that.
Yeah. Well, we're wondering how the drivers are feeling about the race here and about all that's going on. Let's have a word with David Coulthard.
The spectator care about the race. Which are doing everything to
the situation?
Well, it appears to be a little bit unclear as I stand here before you as to whether we're going racing or not. The Michelin position, and I'm sure you've been told this already, is that we can't race without a chicane. As I understand it, Ferrari are against that. So the teams clearly want to go and put on a show, because can you imagine, with all those crowds there, with all the fans of Formula One around the world, then we need to go racing. So there's a bit of a stalemate, as I understand it, but I've been out for 15 minutes in the driver's parade. So
No, they're still talking about it. They have until half an hour before the start of the race. I mean, on a safety grounds, would you be happy racing on the tyres you've got without a chicane?
If Michelin say it's safe, yeah, of course I am. I have trust in them. There's lots of high-speed circuits we race on, and it's their call at the end of the day. We can't take a decision on a technical issue regarding tyres without consulting them. So if they say it's okay, then we would. But clearly they've said it's not. Clearly they've said that all the cars would need to be withdrawn, and the only solution is to put a chicane. So it comes down to whether a compromise can be found to allow that to happen. And of course there's very solid arguments to say nothing should be changed, because the circuit was known before we came. But also I think there's a good argument to say that on safety grounds it should be changed, and maybe all the Bridgestone runners go to the front so they get the advantage, and the Michelin guys line up in their grid order as they qualified, and see what happens from there. Another thing that's been suggested is it's a non-championship race if Ferrari aren't in it, and we would go, all the Michelin runners have agreed to go ahead with that.
F1's not making itself look particularly good today, is it?
It's like everything in this business. Pressure is brought to bear as the timeline gets closer. This could have been resolved last night, because we all knew the situation regarding tyres, but it wasn't, and people are positioning and manoeuvring and negotiating, and then come 1 o'clock there'll have to be some cars out there on the grid, otherwise it's over for Formula One in America.
And we understand there will be cars out there on the grid at 1 o'clock, 7 o'clock your time back home. The feeling is there will be a race. The feeling is there will not be any chicane built. And the feeling is all the Michelin runners will abort the race early on. That is unconfirmed. That is the latest news as I'm hearing it. Jackie, is that how you see things? Is that what you've been hearing?
Well, I don't know everything that's going on, and that's one of the problems. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there also, but I think there's got to be compromise. It's a situation which is crisis management, really. Crisis management's usually done by experts, and I don't think there's a lot of experts in that field. So I believe that we've got to somehow or other compromise, whether it be Ferrari, whether it be Bridgestone, whether it be the other teams. Perhaps the only way to do it is to have a chicane put up in a very short time, even if it meant delaying the race for a short time. There's 120,000 people out there, and I think there's got to be compromise.
You know all about selling this sport over here. How damaging is this episode for F1 stateside?
I think as long as there's a race that takes place...
But a meaningful race, Jackie.
Well, I think it will be a meaningful race, because if they have a chicane in place, then I think it takes out the tyre problem that currently exists. And the moment that that's done, I think you're going to see these drivers drive just like they would normally drive.
You're a huge campaigner about the safety side of this sport. You're carrying a few scars from your involvement in it many years ago. Is it going to be a safe United States Grand Prix?
Yes, I think it will. I don't think that safety can be compromised, least of all in the United States of America with their libel laws and everything that goes with it. So all of that's been taken into consideration. I understand that Michelin have said that their tyres will be safe if the chicane is put in. And under those extreme circumstances, I think the other teams must compromise and allow the chicane to be introduced. It would be far too big an issue for Formula One long term not to have a race here, in my opinion.
Okay, just finally before you go, we've I had pictures of you going around Silverstone with Jenson Button promoting the British Grand Prix. You saw that in Canada last weekend. I thought I might bring a grin to your face. And things looking pretty good for Silverstone at the moment.
Yes, very good. And in fact, the response to the ITV piece that you did brought in a considerable number of ticket sales, and we're forever grateful to ITV for that. I think Jenson Button's now very competitive. I think he's got a chance of being on the podium at Silverstone. I think we're going to see the potential of even a British winner. So that would be very good.
Thanks, Jackie. Let's hope we see Jenson in action here.
Thank you.
Okay. So then we wait, we wonder. What is it, 45 minutes to the off of the United States Grand Prix. Over 100,000 people here at Indy. And, well, we will keep you informed. Back with us at Gasoline Alley. You've got to spare a thought for these guys, these drivers. They don't know what they're going to be facing in 40 minutes time. They don't know if they're going to be racing, if they're not. Will there be a chicane? Will there be a race at all? Will the Michelin runners pull out after 10 laps? Who knows? They don't, we don't. As soon as the news is confirmed, we will let you know. And I'm sure you've got lots of views and opinions about what's happened here at the United States Grand Prix. You can always email us at paddock@itvf1.com. News, information and comments, be sure to log on to our website. You will not be disappointed. itv.com/F1. I'm around for you on Ask the Team this week, and every Grand Prix weekend we have a competition for you. After the answer to our Montreal poser, there's an opportunity to get to the heart of a Formula One team.
Last week's prize was to ride with Sir Stirling Moss in the motor racing legend's pace car around the Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans. And the lucky winner, who knew that Le Mans is a 24-hour race, is Dean Ward from Reigate. This week's prize is for you and a mate to be VIP guests of Mack Tools and BAR Honda at a Silverstone test in September. You'll get accommodation and exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the BAR garage and the pit lane. We'll also throw in a helicopter ride so you can get a bird's-eye view of the action. With this week's question, ladies and gentlemen, Takuma Sato.
Last year's US Grand Prix was a great race for me. I finished on a podium, but who won the race? A. Michael Schumacher, B. Juan Pablo Montoya, C. Fernando Alonso.
Thanks, Taku. Here's the number to call: 0901 293 2020, or text F1 plus A, B or C to 63337. Calls cost £1, texts also cost £1 plus the standard network rate, and hurry up because lines close midday this coming Thursday.
Thank you, Ted. The best of luck with that one. I think we can have another word with David Coulthard down there, who's doing very well to keep us up to date with the happenings around the drivers' scene. And David Coulthard is with Louise Goodman.
Yeah, David, just having a word with Gunther Steiner, one of the team bosses. What's the latest, David?
Well, the latest is that we get in the car ready to go out, but if there is no chicane, then we will not go out, is the word that I've been given. So, what we don't know at this moment is, are they building a chicane?
You're not getting any information about whether that chicane's going into place?
No, at the moment, no. It all seems a bit confusing. So, given the time, we've got 5 minutes before or just over 5 minutes before the pit lane opens. So, a bit disappointing, really.
I'm no construction agent, but surely there is not time to build a chicane now, is there?
Well, these guys can do pretty amazing things. It's only a couple of bits of plastic bolted to the ground. So if someone's got a couple of drills, then you just drill it off and bolt it in there.
So as it stands at the moment, what will you do? Go out, do one exploratory lap and come straight back in and park it?
That is the word from Michelin. We're not racing with the banking, so we cannot go against their wishes.
Thanks, David. Let's go and catch up with Ted.
Yes, well, down here with Martin Whitmarsh from McLaren. Martin, are your cars actually going to bother going to the grid?
As I understand, the position of 9 teams is that unless there's a chicane built before turn 13, that's the last corner, they won't be leaving the garage until that's occurred.
Is that possible? Is the chicane being built? Can they build it in the next 10 minutes?
I don't believe that they're building it, and I don't think it's going to be built in 10 minutes. So unless something dramatic happens, I doubt very much whether very many cars are going to be leaving in a sec.
I mean, what kind of chicane are we talking about? A load of tyres stacked up together?
Well, as I understand, about 3 of the drivers have designed a chicane, and it could be tyres, it could be there's lots of curbing materials that are here. People build chicanes. There is a precedent for this. At the last race, they were changing chicanes until the very last moment, and at every race, there's consideration given to how we make sure that the chicanes are doing what they're there to do, slow the cars up. So this is, I accept this is an extreme situation, and it's arisen because of safety concerns regarding the tyres. But 9 of the 10 teams believe that we should have a chicane before that last corner.
But if it's not going to be built, you're not going to go out. What kind of US Grand Prix are we going to have? Just a load of Bridgestone runners, Ferraris, Jordans, Minardis?
Well, this is Formula 1. Things get taken to the wire, and we'll see what happens in the course of the next half hour, whether something can be resolved or not. We hope it can. We're here, we want to race. All of the Michelin teams have said, look, we accept that we potentially should be penalised. We've accepted, for instance, that we put the Ferraris on the front row, we'll put the Minardis and the Jordans in front of us, and we'll race behind them. But we must have a chicane because we've got to operate safely.
Thank you very much, Martin.
I reckon we've gone beyond the wire at the moment, to be quite honest. 35 minutes to go before the official start of the United States Grand Prix. We're going to try and show you the area where they want those chicanes to be built. No movement about that. You're going to have some very rapid builders to get that up in time for the Grand Prix. But before we do that, let's just have a lap of Indy as it stands with Kimi Räikkönen.
Indianapolis Motor Speedway, just under 4.2 kilometres, that's 2.6 miles, 73 laps in total, 13 turns. We're on board with front row sitter Kimi Räikkönen in the McLaren. Just listen to this engine singing away towards the end of the straight. 19,000 revs, 210 miles an hour, down to just 80 for the turn in. You have to give a little bit on the way in because it tightens through the exit. 3 sweeps through the right-hander, up to 150, braking and turning at the same time. What struck me about this lap is just how early he can hit the throttle pedal. Turn 6 already. As soon as he's got the nose in, listen, straight on the throttle pedal and very hard. 7, if you go wide, you hit the rumble strips, it will trigger the traction control and slow the acceleration. Diagonal the straight to the right-hand side, ready for turn 8, 180 miles an hour just under the bridge. There is a braking point for a very slippery corner. Squirt the throttle, straight back on the brakes, hook the wheel on the inside of the curve to pull the car around. Same for turn 10. Now you've got to get ready for 11, bring it over to the left-hand side. It's slippery on the way in, but it's crucial to carry good speed through the exit. Pick up the throttle as early as you can, point the nose up the 9-degree banking, and just sit and wait for the revs to rise. He's in 6th gear now. He doesn't want to pull top until he comes off that banking. Right now, maximum acceleration. As soon as he's cleared the line, off the throttle to save fuel for the race.
You see, looking at that, I mean, it just underlines it's got the longest straight in Formula 1, over 200 miles an hour for over 20 seconds in that tight infield section. But safety has to be the paramount thing here.
Yeah, it's all about self-preservation for the drivers. Nobody wants to go out there and have an accident because of a failure, which they've got a good indication will happen. The basics of all of this, Jim, is that the rear left tyre is just building up too much load and too much heat on the shoulder, and they've had a couple of failures, and also there's been a number of other tyres which have been seen to have failed, but not at that, at that degree of exploding, and that's going to be a massive problem. We start having cars going off in the wall and coming into the path of other cars. Bedlam.
Okay, now let's just have a quick word before we look at that corner with Mark Webber. Here he is with Louise.
Yeah, Mark stood at the back of the Williams garage with his overalls on. You look like you're going ready to race.
Yeah, I'm going to get in the car as soon as I finish here. We're not going to go out unless the chicane is put there, but Sam just wants to be ready just in case it's all systems as normal, but yeah, I think it's not normal, we know that, but we have to do everything we can to be ready.
How dangerous is that corner?
The corner's not dangerous at all when everything's working fine, but it's like saying that we're not sure if the rear wing is going to survive the Grand Prix. Tyres are very important to the drivers. If it's okay if we get warning and we get a chance to feel if something's happening, but when they just go that quickly, that's very, very dangerous for the driver. It's the worst thing that can probably fail, along with brakes.
How much have the drivers been involved, and has your opinion been sought on all of these safety issues, or has it really been left to your technical people and team principals?
Yeah, I mean, on a technical side, Michelin can only give us the advice. It's an absolute no-brainer that if tyres are not safe enough, then clearly the drivers are at massive risk. We can say, they know our concerns. We don't have to echo them and say, we don't tell them how to cook their eggs. They know they're in trouble, and it's up to them, the technical guys, to sort out what is suitable, whether it's a chicane that helps the loads of the tyres, X, Y and Z, to get us through the Grand Prix.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Meetings are still going on. There is still no sign of that chicane being built at all. It's the side of the tyres, isn't it, that seem to be more at risk, seem to be vulnerable.
And it's the way that the pressure gets built up. And, you know, it's a big problem. Even if they have a safety car situation, if there is an incident, and then those guys have got to build earlier in the season, if it builds up too quickly, you've still got the consequence of losing a tyre and exploding.
Let's just have a look at the crucial area where they want that chicane. This is Kimi's lap, and we'll do our best to slow it down for you. Go on, Mark.
Well, basically, I mean, this is the situation what we'd be looking at, to put a chicane in between these corners here, just to slow the cars right down so they don't approach that corner of 9 degrees of banking with so much load on it. And then it just takes a little bit of the pressure away, takes some of that heat dispersion away. In this case, you see the car builds up onto the banking. It's not that great. It's only 9 degrees. And as Mark Webber said, it's not a difficult corner. It's quite an easy corner, in fact, in a race car. There's no big problems. But warning is what he's on about, and warning is what you do not get when a tyre lets go. This is where the pressure and the load builds up. The heat disperses to the outside shoulder of the tyre. And then if you have a failure here, like we saw with Ralf Schumacher, it's big catastrophe.
Yeah, just going back to what David Coulthard said, it's no big deal to build a chicane. I mean, it's a bit more serious than that, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't want DIY skills from DC, that's for sure. It's not 10 minutes and a drill, no way.
And just one other thing, they have...
Surface on the banking, and that's been done before.
More driver reaction now. Pedro De La Rosa, McLaren's third driver, he's with Ted.
Well, Jim, yes, but we're looking at the eyes of Kimi Räikkönen. What must be going through his mind? Things were just starting to come right for McLaren. He was on a winning streak, won in Canada last time out, and now this. At least it's not Ferrari he's in the battle with, it's another Michelin runner. So if Kimi doesn't race and scores no points today, then of course Alonso won't race and score any points either. So a bit of a strange position for the championship. But let's have a word with Pedro De La Rosa. Pedro, you drove this track on Friday, arguably when the tyre pressures were low, when it was at its most dangerous.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's obviously it would be very dangerous to go out. And after my running on Friday, we were really lucky to have a problem on the first session and not being able to complete the whole mileage. So otherwise we potentially would have had a problem. That's the reason. I mean, people must understand that all this is done for safety reasons. And if Michelin consider not being safe to go out, we won't go out. And as far as I'm concerned, 9 out of 10 teams, 8 teams now, because...
Well, it's a Jordan and they're on the Bridgestone, so they've gone to the grid at least.
Yes, but the second question is the Michelin teams won't go out unless there's a chicane on the last corner, full stop.
Just one question, how could Michelin make a mistake like this?
Well, I'm not sure really, I'm not designing the tires. All I say is that we don't have any bank corners in Europe really to test our tires, and that makes it more difficult. But nevertheless, they had data from other years, so I'm not sure what went wrong.
Thanks very much, Pedro.
And I've been joined by Martin. Martin, this is a bleak period for Formula One. This.
I'm really sad. We've ended up with a blame culture here this weekend. It should have been sorted out last night. I think it's through ego, self-interest, some other agendas, and generally people not being able to just sit down and make a common sense decision last night. And now they've painted themselves in a corner. They're really between rock and a hard place. And I wonder if there's a way out of it. It strikes me it's going to have to be a 6-car race. If they declare it an unofficial Grand Prix, surely the FIA will step back. There's no starter then, there's no medical crew, there'll be no backup support, and that is why, as I say, I think they're painted totally in a corner.
Wonderful Grand Prix. There's the Ferraris going out just under half an hour to go to the start of the race, Martin. But coming off that great Grand Prix we had in Canada with Formula One having a terrific momentum, this is a real bucket of cold water over the sport, really.
Yeah, and that's why it's such lunacy. Okay, we're going to have a 6-car race. Really, that's a 2-car race and 4 cars to make noise while the 2 Ferraris around the other side of the track, as far as I see it. What they haven't done, Jim, is they haven't controlled the paperwork that's been flying around. So when you put an official press release out saying our tyres are not allowed to go through that last corner at speed, then the teams cannot go against that, because especially with the litigious nature of the USA, big corporations like Daimler Chrysler and Red Bull and other massive multi-billion-dollar organisations can't fly in the face of that at all. They're going to have to. They need a document that gives them a reason to go out onto the racetrack. And of course, they've got to apply some science to how, if they're going to go slowly through turn 13, How slowly? How many times? We think Ralph's tyre failed on its first flying lap, for example. So can they maybe change them every 10 laps? There's no science. There's no science available to give them an answer.
Formula One is not about who's going to go slowly.
No, it's not. But today it might just be the common sense route is the chicane, and go racing for the good of Formula One.
Well, there is no sign of that chicane happening, Martin. I mean, you know, unless they're going to knock it up amazingly quickly or delay the start, I just can't see that happening.
Right, well, we had this back in '94 after Senna's death. We, the drivers, forced some chicanes in Canada, Barcelona, and where was the other one? Montreal, and another circuit, I can't remember where it was now, where we demanded, but we ran all weekend with those chicanes, Jim. We knew how to set the car. There's secondary issues here. The control systems on the car very much are function with a given lap distance. You can't just add 50 metres into a lap and a big braking zone. You don't know how the brakes are going to react to that. You don't know a lot of other factors to just turn up and race a Formula One car on an unknown racetrack.
We had shots of Jenson Button ready to do the business in the US Grand Prix. We're not quite sure how long he will be running for. One sage came to me a few moments ago and said this is the end of Michelin in Formula One and the end of Formula One in North America.
Well, that may be true. We've been through these disasters before. Back in '82 there was the FIA War and a limited number of cars on the grid, but you can't help but feel they've shot themselves in the foot this weekend. This is an avoidable situation in my view.
Martin, we look forward to hearing from you later on. Norbert Haug of Mercedes. McLaren very concerned about the safety of their drivers. It is developing all the time. The story of the United States Grand Prix will be continued. Minutes to go to the start of the United States Grand Prix. We still do not know how many cars will take part in it. We do not know how many cars will run. We'll keep you posted. This fellow is a good fan, Richard Cabourn, Minister for Sport. Give us a fan's view of what has happened here so far, or what hasn't happened.
Jim, if you don't know, Jim, nobody knows, quite honestly. It's in a bit of a mess, but there's no doubt about it that the governing body have to hold the integrity of the sport together, and it's safety, and I think obviously that's what they're doing, so we'll see what the end results. Unfortunate, obviously. You know, a bit of egg on the face for Michelin, but we'll have to see what happens. It's
been a fantastic season so far. I'm sure you followed it closely. Just put the brakes on it a little bit.
Yeah, very much so. And I think also what the under discussion now from Formula One and the FIA in terms of actually making sure the skill of the driver is now brought back into play as a sport. I think it's very important indeed. So I think it all bodes well for the future. A little hiccup today, but that'll be resolved.
A little hiccup. That's a nice politician's view of what's gone on here today. But you're here to see the US Grand Prix, of course, but to beat the Olympic drum for London, and decision day July the 6th, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Yeah, there's two reasons. One is obviously motorsport in Silverstone, developing that. But yes, you're right. There's a lot of influential people in Formula One that have connections back into the Olympic movement, and July the 6th is very important for us. And I've got to say, London's got a fantastic reception here. There's no doubt about that. You know, here I'm in America, but New York they seem to be dismissing, and London seems to be coming up as the front runner. So that's very pleasing.
And just a final thought: thumbs up or thumbs down on July the 6th? How confident are you about that?
Well, we're coming up on the
on the
last 100
against
metres.
the French.
Well, we are. I think that we've put a fantastic bid in. Team's great, led by Seb. Everybody's behind it. Prime Minister's going to be there for 2 or 3 days in Singapore. Everything to play for now, Jim. It's the biggest prize in sport, and I will get it.
Good luck. Thanks for your
Jim.
company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's join Ted Kravitz.
Okay, the story developing now. Christian, what's happening now?
The situation is pretty clear. Michelin will not allow us to race this tyre, so unless something changes, we will not be able to race.
But you're going to the grid now.
We'll go to the grid, but we shall come in on the formation lap.
What's the point in going to the grid? To make a protest?
The big problem is we're under strict instruction from Michelin that we're not allowed to race this tyre, and it would be fairly irresponsible towards our drivers and in the interest of safety to go against their wishes.
Is that the position of all the Michelin teams? Are they all going to go to the grid and then come in on this parade lap?
Looks like it.
Thanks, Christian.
Well, that's the first strong indication we have there, Mark, that the Michelin teams will go to the grid. That is the area where they want the chicane. It has not been built. They will go to the grid. They will do a formation lap of the 2.6 miles of Indianapolis. They should have done 73 of them, but it looks as though those Michelin runners will not go.
It's an incredible situation. I mean, we're about to maybe see a 6-car Formula 1 race for the first time, and I'm blown away by it. It's a great shame for F1. We really don't need this kind of thing, but the bottom line is you need to think about the safety of who's sitting in that cockpit behind the wheel, and there is no thing what will make up for that.
I know Bernie Ecclestone had a go at Indianapolis for not selling the race enough here, and I don't think Formula 1 has done that much to endear itself to Indiana.
No, it hasn't, and I can only say that's a great shame, because there are some true enthusiastic fans out there in the stands, and there is a love actually for Formula 1. There's a very hardcore group of people who follow it, but it needs to get a bigger platform, and this kind of thing does not do that.
We have to talk about the race that's likely to happen. 6 cars, the Bridgestone runners, Minardi, Jordan, and 2 Ferraris, and you don't have to be a Formula 1 expert to pick what is going to happen in this Grand Prix.
No, you don't. And if Michael Schumacher goes off into the distance, I mean, yeah, we're going to see something as we've seen many times before, but at the end of the day, this is an incredible situation.
Well, there's Bernie in the middle of this storm, really, and I'm sure, knowing him, and we will have to have a word with Bernie sometime, that this is not the scenario that Bernie in his wildest dreams wanted. He said to us yesterday, very confidently in qualifying, we will have a full grid here. The US Grand Prix will be great. It doesn't look as though that is the way it is going to be. There aren't many smiles down on that grid as Fisichella in the Renault, and we can have a word down on the grid now with Jenson Button. Sorry, it's Martin Blundell down on the grid. On you go, Martin.
Hello, Jim. Well, I don't know whether to laugh or cry, to be honest. Just complete lunacy. We'll see if we can find somebody who will actually talk to us. Just look at this surface down here, this diamond-cut surface, which is what they think has made the difference. It's our 6th Grand Prix here, and therefore they've got some data about this racetrack. You may be saying to yourself, why are these tyres suddenly blowing up? Maybe it's a bad batch, maybe it's the extra surface grip, whatever it is. Clearly, the teams have been told categorically that they cannot go through that final turn 13 full throttle, so they can't go racing. And that'll be dangerous in itself. If they slow down through that corner, well, how slow is slow? And what about the other cars coming steaming through their full throttle on the Bridgestone tyres? And they'll also be maybe 100 miles an hour slower over this start-finish line where I'm standing if they come off that corner at half speed. So we've got a completely untenable situation, and I think, given the paperwork that's been distributed, the teams, these multi-billion-dollar corporations, can't take the risk. You cannot contract out of negligence, and if one of these tyres blows, a driver's hurt, corner worker's hurt, or a piece ends up in the crowd, everybody is on the hook, and that really is what it's all about at the moment. Let's see if I can find the wee man. Bernie, there's nowhere to go now, is it? You're painted in a corner, yeah? What are you going to do? You're the promoter. We look like we might have just 4 cars starting this race.
Well, looks like there's a lot more cars here. Huh? I'm not the promoter either, so no, they're all here.
But I'm told maybe even the Minardis will peel off at the end of the warm-up lap and just come into pits, and 4 cars will come down to the start line itself. They may be all here at the moment.
Well, you know, so why are you asking me?
Well, I want to know if I'm right or not.
You wait and see.
So, but they can't go around the track. They've been told they can't go flat out, and if they go slow, it's more dangerous. I mean, you can't have 14 cars driving effectively a different racetrack.
I mean, the problem is being caused by the tyres, obviously, by Michelin brought the wrong tyres. It's just simple as that.
Yeah, but then for the interest of Formula 1, you must have been screaming at the lot of them to say, sort yourself out. This is what I'm going to do here. I'm taking charge here.
Yeah, but the difference is you can't tell people to do something when the tyre company said you can't race on those tyres.
Did we need some more control on the paperwork that's been flying about and the meetings? Could we not bang some heads together and just get this sorted out last night? Why are we standing on the grid? You're asking me what's going on. I'm asking you what's going on.
I wish I knew. The problem is simple, as I say. There's not the tyres here where the tyre company are confident to say those tyres are okay for you to be, especially on that banking,
quick on the banking.
The future of Formula One in America, the future of Michelin in Formula One.
Not good.
On both counts?
Both counts.
And what'll happen this week? Will they be slapped in some court?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, it's early days. We don't know. I mean, I feel sorry for the public. I feel sorry for the promoter here.
I feel sorry for my 8 million mates sitting at home here looking forward to a good Grand Prix.
So, yeah, that's what I said.
Go and bang their heads together then. It's too late now. We've run out of time, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens now. I mean, people shouldn't give up on Formula One because of this one incident. I mean, the incident is not the fault of the teams, to be honest with you. I mean, what Michelin said, if they put a chicane on that corner, it would be okay. They could run. And it's been decided not to put a chicane there, so that's it.
Yeah, but they didn't bring tyres that were intentionally not up to it. They've just obviously been caught out by something, a bad batch or this new diamond cut service. We saw Bridgestone having tyres fail in Barcelona with the safety car situation. Surely we just have to have a sensible pill and say, OK, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Let's take a sensible solution and go motor racing.
Tell me where we can buy the pills.
We need to talk to Mrs. Ecclestone. Maybe this needs a woman's common sense here. There's Mrs. Ecclestone. Let's see if she's... Mrs. Ecclestone, this needs a woman's intuition on this, don't you think?
Nothing to say.
I think maybe you should have had something to say and give him a jolly good slapping. Right, apparently Jenson Button is somewhere around here. He was third on the grid. This says Button here. Where can we find him? Has anybody seen him? Somebody said he was about. It's that kind of day where nobody actually wants to say anything. He's talking to Guy Liberté. If you've ever been to Cirque du Soleil, this is the man that is the creator of Cirque du Soleil and a very good friend of Formula One. Jenson, have you got a quick word about the stupidity we're facing here?
I can't say anything. And I can't say anything either. I'd like to, but anyway, that's it. I've just got to try and concentrate on what's going on.
You're not going to be getting too sweaty, are you, this afternoon?
We'll have to wait and see.
OK. There we are. Where's Fisichella? He's the next man on the grid. I don't suppose he... Fizzy, anything to say to us?
I don't know yet what happened.
Nothing at all. So you mentally, what are you mentally, you ready to race?
I'm ready, yes, for sure, I'm ready. Yeah.
You're a racer like me. You must be so angry about this.
Yes, I am, because it's difficult to be here and don't know what happened. Don't know what happened.
Would you personally take a risk on the tyres?
I don't think so. No, it's a really high risk. So I don't know.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, let's see if we can talk to a Bridgestone runner who's obviously going to be not dissatisfied with the situation, because they could be getting a bucket load of points down here. And he's talking to Ross Brawn. And obviously a little bit of a... can we dive in here? Can we dive? Look at the crowd behind. They may not see too much racing this afternoon in the quadruple grandstands there. There's I'm just a touch reluctant to go barging into this, because it's clearly a really confidential chat just before they get going. All right, I don't know how long I've got left, because we're kind of running out of steam there. Rubens, well, what are you doing? How is your mind focused at the moment about today?
Well, it's still focused for a win. I mean, it's no doubt on that. I'm really sorry for the public. That's the mess. Nobody knows what's going on. We've been told by our Ferrari members to go. That's our main thing. We're going to start and we're going to have our race. Hopefully they're going to be on the race because we look strong. I mean, the tires look strong and everything. So it's really a pity that they are not taking part, if that's true.
Well, I suspect, mate, we're relying heavily on you for an entertaining race and having a go at Michael, so don't let us down. I'm going to throw back to you, Jim.
Well done down there, Martin. I think Ruben's face tells it all. If you're just joining us, welcome to Indianapolis, coming towards the first day of summer here, but very few bright stories around this particular race. Formula One bringing itself into disrepute here, in my view, and There's been a big row about tyres. If you're just turning on, Michelin not sure the tyres will last the whole race. The Michelin runners, that is 14 cars, wanted a special chicane put in here. The chicane has not been added, and so we're not quite sure what we're going to see, but we do not believe that those Michelin runners are going to be around very long. And the 3 cars on Bridgestone, that is Minardi, that is Jordan, and that is the 2 Ferraris, Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello, will have the United States Grand Prix all to themselves. Mrs. Eccleston, this little sidestep of Martin down there. But when we sit back at this and take a long look at what's happened here today, Mark Blundell, common sense has definitely not prevailed here.
Well, it's just a difficult situation, Tim, because at the end of the day, we've got a company what supplied us tyres. Those tyres are quite clearly not capable of getting the job done, and inside those cars where those tyres are needing to be getting that job done are human beings, and we can't take on board that safety issue has got to be put to the side. We've got to think about the self-preservation of those guys sitting behind the wheel.
Safety always the most important aspect. Let's pop down and have a word with Ted Kravitz.
Well, let's get the Michelin angle on this, shall we? Nick Shorrock, the head of Michelin at F1 races. What's going to happen? They're all going to come in?
Well, we don't know. We're just waiting to see. At the moment, we've got no further comment to make other than what was discussed this morning with the team principals. So we're hoping that they're going to depart.
But you've told them it's not safe, so they're all going to come in, right?
I don't know. That's up to the teams. We'll see how they manage that.
But you haven't been able to assure them that the tyres will be safe for more than 10 laps?
It's not a question of 10 laps, it's a question of the product, the interest. We try to guarantee our product, our teams, and also the interest of the Formula 1 race.
What are going to be the implications, the repercussions for Michelin, Nick?
I don't know. We want to see what the next step is.
It could be very serious.
Could be serious for Michelin. Bernie Eccleston saying don't give up on Formula 1. I can only echo that. But we do accept we are testing your patience and testing your loyalty to the limit here. And all those brains, all the expertise has failed to come up, in my view, with a solution before this United States Grand Prix. Indiana super speedway, we always see something different, Mark, I suppose. You've been around this game longer than me, but can you remember anything like this happening before?
Not like this. No, I don't. I mean, I remember as Martin Blundell went back and said, 10 odd years ago we had a chicane put in at Barcelona, Spa, these places, because there was an issue with safety and just reducing speeds and so forth. But at this point in time, I've not seen anything up to the wire, and until this race starts, we really have got no idea what will happen. But for the fans out here, remember, 3 weeks ago, the Indy 500 was here. There was 400,000 people, and they saw a great spectacle. This is a completely different thing.
Absolutely. They saw an English winner as well. Dan Weldon winning the Indy 500 and sipping their pint of milk. I think one or two of us are going to need something a little bit stiffer than that after this particular episode in Formula 1. What is really sad about all this is that peak time last week in Canada, we had an absolute thriller. We've had so many great races in Formula 1 this season. Great momentum. Michael Schumacher fighting to retain his crown. Alonso driving for Flavio Briatore, absolutely brilliant. And then Raikkonen coming through for McLaren. The whole season really was bubbling, and it has really hit the barriers as things stand here at Indianapolis. But keep the faith. We're not too sure what is going to happen. You never know. Those Michelin runners, they might give it the full charge. Things happened to Juan Pablo Montoya round here, a former Indy 500 winner. He has been fastest except in that qualifying session. Keep the faith. We'll be right back with the United States Grand Prix.